Go, go, go!
My life forever!
Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Winter, and I'm here with an Age of Empires 4 build order guide. This is a Mongols build designed to shut down those early rushes from things like the bland English or the overzealous Holy Roman Empire. Anyone trying to get units into wherever you decide to place your base early, this is something that should be able to shut it down before it starts, and if you don't get attacked, can put on pressure to your opponent. I've been using this to pretty great success so far in multiplayer, and I think it's a good starting point for a lot of Mongol players in kind of learning the mechanics of the civilization. So let's jump in. First things first, unlike the boring other civilizations like the English or the French or any of these silly ones, the Mongols can build their town center wherever they want. But where do they want to is the question. I usually like, and right now it's very subjective, but I like to build between wood and another resource, berries or gold. Why is this? Because while you do need stone for your uvu, a lot of earlier players I've seen start building their uvu right off the bat. That's 150 wood that you really do need for other things. The uvu is more of a early feudal or later dark age item. Getting the other basic resources you need to actually get to that point is key. So don't get baited into building your TC early on by the stone. Having access to wood and another resource means you only have to build a single gur or resource gathering building to get everything you need to start out. So I'll be kicking this off here. I spot the berries and the wood, and I say, let's set up camp. The town center takes a little bit of time to get there, surprisingly short. Terrans would be very excited about this. So I spend a little bit of time building the gur early on while the TC unpacks, and then begin harvesting those sheep by clubbing them over the head with my shepherd stick, which is how we do it, apparently. So, what is the build itself? Relatively simple, 7, 3, 3. 7 on food, 7 on sheep. 7 on sheep is the 7 on food, just to be clear. And then 3 on wood, and then 3 on gold. This is designed to get you everything you need to be able to get to feudal in a timely manner, get a stable for early horsemen, and be able to produce those horsemen, which are 100 food and 20 wood apiece. The build will be 4 early horsemen, which will be upgraded into standard feudal horsemen. This is using the fact that Mongols get access to those horsemen earlier than the other civilizations, so they can already have them ready for when they get upgraded in the feudal age. So, as I'm building up, I have the Khan going around gathering the sheep. Something to note about the Khan, Scouting Falcon. Scouting Falcon, very nice for picking up those extra sheep, and just generally scouting and revealing your part of the map. Generally, I will use 2 falcons on my side, I'll return the sheep, and then I'll go scout my opponent. So, we now got 7. We're going to take off the camera. We now have 7 on food, 3 on wood, and rallying 3 to gold. The 3 on wood and the 7 on food, those are there to stay. Alright, that's our baseline economy for now. The 3 on gold will get up to 200 gold. And then they will build my first landmark, the Deer Stones. The Deer Stones inspire everything near them with the Yam Network. Not sweet potatoes, but even sweeter than that. The Yam Network is the creep of the Mongols, yes. It can be packed up somehow with, like any other Mongol building. It gives a speed aura of 15% to everything in a large radius. Not just that, but it also allows outposts to connect, much like creep tumors in StarCraft 2. Increasing the speed of all your units, including villagers gathering resources. So just generally, very nice. I found that to be the landmark to pick early on. The Khan, now that I've got a half dozen or so sheep, they do not decay on the ground, something to point out. Now that I've got a half dozen or so going across the map, after gathering any last ones, because the sheep are very loyal. They will follow you, so returning them is a nice thing to do. We've got 733. Actually, we have 833, which means I screwed up the build a little bit. The next worker after the 3 on gold is to build a stable. Costs 150 wood, and that stable will allow you to start building relatively early horsemen. This will be alongside pulling 3 off of gold to build the deer stones. Really, as long as you start building the stable alongside the deer stones, you should have enough time. The perfectly optimized build is to build the stable right before you start the deer stones, but it's about 10-15 second difference on either side. From here, adding more to food, as those horsemen are pretty pricey. And remember, in Age of Empires 4, you can continue building villagers as you age up and build your landmarks. So that is an additional food cost to consider. What I'm going to be looking at is 10 on food with the stable finishing, 3 just continuing to chop down those trees, and then I'm rallying 2 more to gold. What am I going to need gold for? The reason I pulled off gold is because this build does not require very much gold at all. It does not require very much gold at all. I'm actually going to pause here because there's a lot to consider before we get towards the feudal age. But the 2 on gold is to be able to get, as feudal age completes, early horseman to horse. That is the key part of all this. We're going to be looking to build 4 horsemen. Somewhat appropriate, though I'm not sure how to make a joke out of that quite yet. We'll get there. 4 horsemen, and then, as feudal age completes, being able to upgrade as I go across the map, or look to defend. So what did the Khan see? Usually coming across at the 4 or 5 minute mark is when players will be choosing, as you can see, their feudal age landmark. For the English, you can see if it's the council hall for longbowmen, and then there are a wide variety of options between the civilizations. For Chinese, for example, you can tell if they have the barbarican, which is essentially a big stone block that shoots bullets at you, so something maybe to avoid with your horsemen. On top of that, I'm scouting for where the resources are located. I noticed that the berries are pretty well tucked in within range of the town center, but the gold patch for the English over here may be vulnerable to horsemen, assuming I'm able to get them across the map. So, as for the economy, what I'm looking to do is get to 12 on food, get 3 on gold eventually. The priority is food, so 11 or 12 on food, 3 on wood, and then 3 on gold. Past that, I will be looking to add more to wood and getting into uvu on some of the stone and developing my economy. This is not any sort of all-in. This isn't like Mongols moving their town center across the map. This build is just to get your economy started and to make sure you can put active pressure on your opponent, because there's no better way to scout your opponent than start stabbing them in the face. That usually induces a response and will allow you to see what they're going for. So some notes about buildings. It takes 4 workers to build 4 villagers to build twice as fast, and it takes 10 to build 3 times as fast as the default speed. So usually 3, a pretty decent speed, and partially I use 3 because that's how many I had on gold. It gets you there pretty quick without hamstringing your economy, especially your food and your wood, and allows you to get to the next stage pretty comfortably. Here, now going to wood with the ones that finished up the deer stones. Finishing up that 4th horse, you see the stable was a little bit late, and that means the second feudal finished. I wasn't quite done with the horsemen. Early horsemen to horsemen as the units are ready to come across the map. The Khan returning any of the last sheep and accidentally getting garrisoned, which will happen. And now we're ready to move right as that horseman upgrade is finishing, which gives them extra HP and damage and kind of just gives you your baseline. So horseman completes, and now I can put the pressure on. So while this is happening, I've gathered enough wood to get an uvu. And even though this is essentially where the build will end. I want to talk about the Uvu just in general and the choices from here. So, where does this leave us? This leaves us with about 25 workers here. 22, 23, 1 idle, and 1 building. We now have our first Uvu. I've built a gur next to it because the Uvu allows you not only to get some pretty amazing upgrades like superior mobility, which is actually super cheap, and you should check this one out. This allows your buildings, after they pack up, to move faster than most cavalry. Yes. Yes. It is a little ridiculous. As well as getting you extra bonuses on the upgrades via stone. You can no longer think of stone as a resource to be traded or used to build, but stone is kind of a limiting factor on your upgrades. You can sprinkle some stone on your upgrades as some sort of special spicy sauce, and you get extra bonuses. Something to note, you do not have to wait until you have the stone. It will take a little more time, but you can, at another gur, research horticulture, for example, and then at one near an Uvu, you can research it just for stone to get the extra bonus. On top of this, the Uvu allows you to make pasture farms that produce more sheep. They give you some blacksmith upgrades, and they allow you to potentially produce units twice as fast, though this is more of a later game option. So that is your breakdown of the Uvu options, especially in the early game. Now, what about if you wanted to transition into the mid, like, what are we doing in the feudal age? While this is the end of the build, the directions you can go from here include, well, if your opponent is more focused on archers, then horsemen are good to a point, but usually they'll eventually add pikemen in, and in that case, going quicker towards the castle age and getting men at arms. I've found Mongols to be a bit more of an infantry civilization, despite having Mangadai and having, obviously, cavalry bonuses. Their infantry are entirely capable, and men-at-arms are incredible, especially against archer civilizations. And pikemen, perfectly good against cavalry. So usually I'll find myself transitioning into having a barracks, and then if it does make sense, I'll add the archery range for things like Mangadai. Again, like, for example, if they're also going cavalry, the Mangadai can attack while moving, so that means they can essentially just kite them across the entire map. So, you don't have to be super active on the Horsemen, I find, but obviously, always finding any opportunities is nice. You want to make sure you're not losing anything back at home, but the main focus of this build is giving you a safe, solid army, because really, a few early horsemen will pick off villagers and they'll shut down early pushes, but you're not getting within town center range. At least not very easily. So, exposed resources and any early pushes are what you're looking to shut down, while focusing on building up your economy back at home. So, while I know this doesn't cover the entire game you could be playing as Mongols, I hope this was an educational resource. I wanted to get this out there because I see a lot of people with a lot of questions about what is probably the most fun civilization in my opinion. And I hope you enjoyed. And tell me, give me some feedback. What do you want to see? Was this helpful? Was it useless? Well, anything in between would also be ideal. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, ring the bell because they removed it from our town centers. How ingracious. Thank you for watching. Good luck. Have fun. I'll see you next time. Stay chill.